Hey you guys, it's your girl T and it's time for another recap of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So last week we were left with a cliffhanger, and so this week they're picking up, they're still in Mexico, and Apollo and Kenya are finishing their conversation. Phaedra is upset. Nene and Porsha have also come down there to see what's going on. Phaedra ends up storming out the room, and Nene and Porsha decide to, basically check Apollo and let him know that he's wrong for sitting here conversating with Kenya, knowing that his wife is uncomfortable with the situation. Apollo's making excuses. He's saying he's a grown man. He doesn't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. He doesn't want there to be any animosity in the air, and that he wanted to get everything cleared up with Kenya. So eventually they talk Apollo into going back after his wife and checking up on her. In the next scene, you have Apollo and Phaedra. They're over there talking. Phaedra's literally sitting on the ground looking like a broke, lost Aunt Jemima. And she's sitting there looking out depressed and sad. And Apollo's like, what's wrong? Why did you come back here? Why are you sitting on the floor? She claims she has to pee. And Apollo's like, okay, if you had to pee, why didn't you pee in there where everybody's at? And she's like, well, I don't feel like being bothered. It's just too much going on. She has an attitude. And then Apollo's like, I just don't understand this. You always have an attitude. How can you not jovial? And then she looks at Apollo like, you dumb motherfucker, it's not jovial, it's jovial. And you can just tell, like, she's just so irritated with him. She does not want to be bothered with this man. He's irritated with her. She then demands that Apollo go and get the room key. And Apollo's like, I'm not about to get nothing. You should have got the room key when you decided to walk out the party with an attitude. And Phaedra's like, so what, you gonna leave me sitting here all night? And Apollo says, I'll send somebody to bring you a key. And he ends up walking off and going back to the party. When I tell y'all their marriage is such a farce, if nobody can see through this sham that is their marriage, you have to be blind. It's obvious that Phaedra got married to Apollo so Apollo wouldn't testify against her when all that shit went down with Angela Stanton, because I don't see no love. I don't see any type of connection in this marriage. But moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene we have Miss Lawrence and Kenya, and they're sitting on the beautiful beaches of Mexico. And Miss Lawrence is wearing some type of flock, this huge purplish pinkish gown. Peter and Cynthia walk up, and Cynthia's looking like a sexy model. She has her shape back. She has no more fibroids. Her stomach is back flat, and she's looking fierce as hell in her bikini. Then Peter decides to tell Miss Lawrence that he looks really good, and everybody on Twitter just kind of gave Peter the side eye on that one. So anyways, they start asking Kenya about the whole situation with her and Apollo, and Miss Lawrence interjects, and Miss Lawrence says that she feels like there's a lot of sexual chemistry, there's a lot of tension, sexual tension with Apollo and Kenya, that they had the Angelina Jolie and the Brad Pitt thing going on, and that, everybody can see it but them two. And then in her confessional, Kenya claims that she's not into broke criminals, which I just find funny because she's always flirting with Apollo, but I feel like she flirts with Apollo just to piss Phaedra off because she knows that Apollo is checking for her. So then Miss Lawrence decides to, walk off the scene, whatever, after instigating and spilling tea. And then Peter and Cynthia decide to sit down next to Kenya. They start talking about the whole situation. And Peter basically is once again interjecting himself into women's conversation. And he's telling Kenya that, if you're not fucking with Apollo and you did nothing wrong, then you need to tell Phaedra that you're not trying to fuck her man. You need to set the record straight. It's like Peter is just always doing the most. He's giving her good advice, but at the end of the day, it should be coming from Cynthia and not Peter. After Peter gives Kenya the advice, Kenya proceeds to say that she has 91 problems, but getting dick ain't one. She said she can go to the mailbox and the postman will be like, do you want some dick? She can go to Home Depot and she can ask somebody for a hammer and they'll be like, you want some dick? So she says that she gets offered dick on the daily. Okay, Kenya, you're not alone. I get offered dick on the daily. I'm sure everybody watching this video gets offered dick on the daily. That's just how it is to be a woman. People are always going to try and get with you. People are always trying to have sex with you. People are always trying to holler at you. That's the world that we live in. Why is she acting like getting offered dick is some type of prize? Ain't nobody worried about no damn dick. The question is, Kenya, can you get a real man to marry you and put a ring on your finger? Can you get a real man to build a family with you, to start a family with you that you so desperately want? I think that's what she should be focused on. That's something to brag about, not somebody getting some dick. Anybody can get dick out here. Everybody and their mama gets offered dick. The biggest hood rats out here get offered dick on the daily. So I wouldn't be bragging about getting offered dick 24/7. You're not being offered nothing that nobody else is out here being offered. But like I said, she needs to focus on trying to find a good man to build with as opposed to getting dick from every Tom, Dick, and Harry. No pun intended. Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, Kenya decides to host another pillow talk party. Basically, she's trying to do a part 2 of the whole hotel couples night. And Porsha was kind of on it. She was like, you know what, it seems weird there's all these bean bags here. I feel like we're going to do another couples night. And sure enough, Porsha was correct. That is exactly what Kenya planned. So Kenya comes in and she announces to everybody that they're doing another couples night, and that basically, you know, she wants to start reading out questions. So Porsha reads the first question, and the first question is, you know, do you like wild or, you know, slow sex? And Porsha's like, you know, she likes wild sex, but a lot of times when she's with older guys, they tend to perform a lot slower. And Nene gets all pissed off and upset, and she's like, that's not true. You know, Gregg is a freak. Some old guys want to have sex, want to have more sex than some guys in their 20s. That's not true. You need to stop with that. And she just gets like this really big attitude, and it's like, bitch, you need to calm down. Even Gregg ain't that upset. Why are you so pressed? Then the next question goes to Nene, and the question is, out of all the couples, who annoys you the most? So Nene decides to take this opportunity to just drop a bunch of shade, and she starts going off on Porsha and saying that she's really ignorant for her comment about, you know, her saying that older guys don't have wild sex, and she feels like Porsha tries to act like she's so young, and Porsha's like, well, I'm only 30-something, and Nene's like, no, bitch, you're 32 years old, you're not that much younger than me. And you can obviously tell that Nene, being the oldest on the cast, obviously her age bothers her, because if she was confident in her age, she would not have to go off on Porsha about it, and she damn sure wouldn't have to check Candy about it. She starts going off on Candy because Candy thought that Nene had reached menopause, because Candy said that she didn't really know Nene's real age, and a lot of times once women hit their 40s, they start to go into menopause. And Nene gets, you know, Nene is really upset about this, even though this conversation took place 2 weeks ago. And Candy's like, bitch, don't nobody care what's going on in your panties. That don't make me ignorant. I thought that you were hitting menopause. If you're not, great. You know what I'm saying? If you want to still get a visit from Aunt Flo, that's on you, but why are you going off right now? You know, Nene was just going so hard about her age, and it's like, obviously, to me, she's insecure about her age. She didn't even want to announce what her real age was, but then she had the nerve to sit there and call out Porsha's real age. So why are you telling everybody that Porsha's 32, bitch? Why aren't you telling about how old you really are? You know, if you and Gregg have wild sex and you still get a period, great for you, Nene. Do you want a cookie, bitch? She was just going the fuck off like she had been so disrespected. It's like, I'm gonna need Nene to calm the hell down a little bit. She was doing a little bit too much in that damn scene. But what I like most about that scene was when Todd spoke up to stick up for Candy. And Todd was like, you can school me, you know what I'm saying, school me, but then don't sit here and talk down to me and call me ignorant and try and check me. It's not that serious. And then Nene gets offended. She's like, I don't care if you don't like the way I talk to her. I don't care if you like what I said. That's my business. I don't have to sugarcoat anything for Candy. And it's like, wow, Nene, but let somebody talk to you or your sack of laundry, aka Gregg crazy, and you go off the handle. But then it's okay for you to talk to the other women crazy and call them ignorant. If anybody steps on Nene's toes, it's the issue. And that's the thing that irritates me the most about Nene, is her whole hypocritical stance. So same scene, Kenya decides to ask Miss Lawrence a question, and she hands him the note. And the question is basically something to the effect of, you know, do you believe that all men cheat? Are you okay with cheating? Would you leave, you know, if you were cheated on? And Miss Lawrence basically decides to perpetuate the whole gay, whorish lifestyle, where he basically says that he feels like all men cheat and he's okay with cheating. He doesn't feel like, you know, cheating is a relationship breaker because he cheats on his boyfriends and he allows his boyfriends to cheat on him. So basically perpetuate the whole stereotype that gay men can't be faithful and that they will have sex at the drop of a dime with any and everybody. You know, people wonder why STDs and everything else are on the rise, because people are just out here free fucking like it's a sport. Not just gay people, but straight people as well. You know, and I do feel like cheating is a deal breaker. I do feel like cheating is a very serious thing in a relationship, especially in marriage. You know, if you don't want to be faithful, if you want to sit here and run the streets and talk to other females, then like Phaedra said, you shouldn't be married. You know what I'm saying? I don't respect people who want to have their cake and eat it too. They still want the family unit. They want the wife to clean and cook and take care of the kids, but then they want to be out here doing their whole shit on the side. And I feel like that to me is a deal breaker. The whole cheating thing, I'm not cool with that. And I wouldn't be with somebody who thinks that it's okay to cheat and continuously cheat. You know, I could see one time, but when it's your MO and that's just all you do, after a while that person is not going to change and you need to let that go. And like I said on Twitter, the only reason why a woman would continuously make excuses for a man cheating is because her man is continuously cheating on her and she's trying to justify his cheating. There's no excuse to be cheating in a relationship. If you don't want to be in a relationship, if you don't want to be with that person, you need to cut that off. There's no reason for a woman to settle with the cheater. It is not that serious. I don't believe that all men cheat. I do believe a great deal of men cheat, and that's in a lot of guys' MO. If they know they won't get caught and there's no ramifications, a lot of guys will cheat, but I don't believe that every guy cheats. I do know that there are some faithful guys out there, but I will be honest, I do feel like they are a slim number of guys that don't cheat. It's like nobody is faithful nowadays, and marriage is literally a joke nowadays. You know what I'm saying? But what I didn't like about that scene was how Miss Lawrence just straight up put Phaedra and Apollo on blast. Miss Lawrence was like, well, Phaedra and Apollo, won't y'all talk about it since y'all's over there being all quiet? Then Apollo starts mumbling and bumbling and stumbling over his words, and he's talking about cheating insurance and how, you know, he expects his girl to cheat eventually in a relationship. relationship, and you know he doesn't think Phaedra is cheating, but if she's gonna cheat, she should use condoms. I mean, this man is an idiot. He's like, everybody cheats. That right there is telling you his mentality. And then in the confessional, Phaedra's trying to cover it up and say that, oh, it's not Apollo speaking, it's Don Julio. No, bitch. Apollo's telling you the truth. You're just trying to ignore it like most of these tots do out here. When somebody shows you their true colors, take that shit for what it is and run for the fucking hills. Don't make excuses. Don't blame it on the Don Julio. That's Apollo's real feelings. And that lets me know right there that Apollo has cheated on Phaedra, and he probably is cheating on Phaedra as we speak. So moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, Kenya decides to get all the women together and all the guys together. And she even sends Miss Lawrence off with the guys, which is a shocker because we're used to him tagging along with the women 24/7. So they're all sitting around talking, and Kenya decides to ask Phaedra basically what her issue is with her. And she tells Phaedra, you know, I've never made a move at Apollo. I never tried to get with him. And Phaedra's like, you know what? I had an attitude when I walked in and I seen you and my husband talking because I don't like you dealing with my husband or talking to my husband when I'm not there. And I was thinking to myself, do I smack the shit out of her now or do I just, you know, fall back? And then Kenya's like, no, boo, you wasn't going to smack the shit out of me. That's not what's going to happen. So they start going back and forth. And, you know, you could tell Phaedra's just, she's had it at this point in time. She's tired of Kenya's shenanigans. You know, she's just tired of Kenya more and all her bullshit. And Kenya's like, you know what? Don't blame me for the issues in your marriage. Don't blame me because your man is not faithful and you're insecure. And then Porsha decides to chime in. And she's like, you know what, Kenya? That's not cool. You will never understand because you're not a wife. You need to get yourself together and stay out their relationship. And then Kenya starts going off on Porsha, saying, you know what, first of all, you weren't much of a wife either. You were Cordell's beard. You were there just as a front for Cordell. You were just his little trophy. So you weren't much of a wife either. So you really had no room to talk down to me. So they're all going back and forth. Porsha is cussing Kenya out. Kenya's cussing out Porsha. And then finally they just decide to dead the whole situation and move on from that conversation. So then Kenya decides to ask Nene about the whole situation with Marlo, about why Nene's not cool with Marlo. And Nene just shuts it down. She's like, I'm not talking about Marlo. We can move on from this. I'm not going to speak on Marlo. So like I said, to me, Nene is very hypocritical. When she don't want to talk about something, it's cool for her to shut it down. But then when she asks somebody something, oh, you better not ignore Nene. You better not answer her question. You know what I'm saying? But yet she's free to not answer anybody else's question, which to me is just utter and complete bullshit. So moving on to the next scene. So in the final scene, Grandpa Gregg decides to find his balls from somewhere. And he decides to confront Peter about the whole situation that happened about, 3 weeks ago at Kenya Moore's little event. When basically Peter was telling Nene about herself. And he's mad. He feels like, you know what? You are never ever to check my wife or come at my wife sideways again. The next time you do, you're going to have to listen to me. I'll beat your ass. And he just starts going off on Peter. I'm like, why the hell are these old ass grandparents arguing and fighting? All you see is Gregg. You see Peter going off, you see Gregg going off, and it's like, why is Gregg all of a sudden trying to be all about it? You know what I'm saying? After the whole situation went down with Nene and them, they went over there to Peter's house the very next day. They sat there, they chilled with Peter and Cynthia and everything else. And Gregg didn't say shit. Nene didn't say shit. Nene had an attitude with Peter. You know what I'm saying? But Gregg didn't. Gregg didn't say anything. So you gonna wait 3 weeks and all of a sudden now, because you want to create a storyline for yourself, now you trying to check Peter? I'm gonna need Gregg to sit all the way the hell down. I was so scared that if they got the fighting, somebody might break their hip or have a damn stroke. I'm like, y'all know damn well Bravo don't got no health insurance. I better listen to Todd and Apollo and fall the fuck back for somebody to break their damn hip or hurt their back. So after they was arguing and going back and forth and everything else, Nene and all the ladies hear all this arguing, so they decide to come upstairs. So now they come upstairs. Peter and Gregg are trying to basically diffuse the situation. Peter's telling Cynthia, I just want to go home. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm ready to go to bed. And Cynthia's like, no, I want to know what happened. You know, why are you and Gregg arguing? So then they start talking about it. And Nene's basically like, you know what, Peter, you're always in everybody's business. You know, are you Peter? Are you Patricia? You're in all the women's business. You need to stop acting like a damn bitch. Lord, when she said that, all eyes were on Cynthia. Because I'm like, I know Cynthia gonna say something. But of course, Cynthia sat there looking stupid with them big ass glasses on and didn't say shit. How the fuck are you gonna sit there and let another woman disrespect your husband and call your husband a bitch? You don't call your husband no bitch. So why would you allow Nene to call your husband a bitch? I was so disappointed in Cynthia, and that just shows you how weak Cynthia is as a wife and as a woman, that you can't even take up for your own husband. It's bad enough she doesn't take up for herself, but to sit there and allow somebody to disrespect your husband, that to me made me lose a lot of respect for Cynthia. As beautiful as she is just a shell of a person. She has no personality, and she's very insecure, and she's very scared to stand up to Nene. Nene would have drugged Cynthia out up and down the hallway of that hotel. There's no way that anybody could have called Gregg a bitch, and Nene would have stood by and let that ride. You know, I don't understand why Cynthia is so scared of this woman. It makes no sense to me. She did not have her man's back. Even Porsha was like, damn, you know, Cynthia's not going to say anything. How disrespectful is that? You never let somebody disrespect the person that you love, the person who's supposed to be your ride or die. If you can sit there and let another woman disrespect your man in front of you, that shows the world that you don't care about that man. Peter was to sit there and let somebody disrespect Cynthia. He'd be all types of punks, all types of this, and that. So to me, it's no different. That's your husband. That's your man. That's your ride or die. You supposed to ride for him and not let nobody disrespect him. Thing pissed me off. Nene had no right to call that grown man a bitch. Because like I said, if that was done, if somebody spoke like that to her husband, Nene's big ass would have flew off the handle. You know, I just find her whole stance just totally hypocritical. She can fly off the handle. She can call this person out, call folks ignorant, call folks bitches. But then when she gets it, it's an issue. When Marlo gave it to her, it was an issue. And that's the difference between Marlo and a lot of these other women. Marlo's not going to let Nene punk her. And Nene don't like that. That's why she don't want to speak on Marlo. That's why she don't want to deal with Marlo, because she knows Marlo's not for her bullshit. Point blank, period. So anyways, that was my recap for this week's episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Go ahead, leave a comment. Let me know your favorite scene. Let me know what you guys thought about this entire episode. So I will see you guys on Sunday on Twitter. Make sure you guys follow me. I am @LovelyT. All right. Deuces.